Happy Overreaction Monday, Who Dat Nation. Here on Saints Now, we're going to give you the latest injury updates around offensive lineman Cesar Ruiz. Nick Underhill recently just put out an update for his injury. We're also going to get into my Overreaction Monday. 3 big overreactions from Saints fans just like you and me that I've seen on social media, that I've seen in my live chat, in my comment section, and I just want to respond and give my thoughts to those. Before we get to the injury update for Cesar Ruiz, I do want to give you a sneak peek on the first overreaction we're going to discuss, which is trading away Chris Olave. A lot of people were saying the Saints need to trade away Chris Olave after a couple drops and a really bad start to this season. I'm going to give you my thoughts in a few minutes, but I want to hear from you before we have the conversation. What should the Saints do with Chris Olave? Type trade or type keep. Get in the comment section. And without further ado, I want to give you the information around Cesar Ruiz. In case you didn't know, or in case you weren't able to tune into the game, Cesar Ruiz was carted off after suffering an ankle injury versus Buffalo. We then saw Toricelli Simpkins replace Ruiz at the right guard position. Kellen Moore, after the game, didn't have much of an update, but we recently got one from Underhill, which will be shared in momentarily. Here's what Moore had to say after the matchup. He said, "We'll see how things go. I'll get a little bit of clarity, give you a better answer probably tomorrow once we go through the medical exams." And obviously, we don't have all of the information yet, but this is what we are hearing from Nick Underhill. Cesar Ruiz expected to miss game time due to an ankle injury. Scans will determine how long he's out, so we will have to see what happens. Now, here's what the offensive line currently looks like. Ruiz and Radens, both interior offensive linemen, dealing with some injuries. Trevor Penning finally able to get back out on the field. It was really nice to see this starting offensive line finally get to take the field together. Trevor Penning has not played yet this season. This past game, we saw him finally get his debut for the 2025 season, and then Ruiz gets hurt. And I thought overall the starting offensive line was pretty solid until Ruiz got hurt. So it's unfortunate to see this unit have to deal with injuries, death, taxes, Saints offensive linemen getting hurt, and here we are once again with a banged-up O-line. Now, I want to encourage you to subscribe to the channel because, like I mentioned, we will have more information. We will have more updates here later on when we will be live later on today at 3 p.m. Central Time, and hopefully we'll have more information then. And either way, we'll still be giving you guys awesome content, and we'll be hanging out, talking more about this game and talking about the future of this team. And we are on the road to 100K. If you guys need more of an incentive to join the Golden Gang, we are trying to get to 51,200 with this video. We need about 60 people to hit the sub button, and we can make that happen. So if you're a diehard Saints fan and you want free content by Saints fans for Saints fans, make sure you join the family and help us get to 100K. 48,867, Alper, that's a lot, but every subscriber counts. Now let's get into Overreaction Monday, the fun portion of this video. We're going to talk about trading Chris Olave. As I stated off the beginning of this video, this was an idea that I saw floated out there a ton on social media. I saw it a ton over on my live chat when we were live for the game during the watch party. He had a couple egregious drops early in the matchup, but then he eventually was able to find the end zone for the first time since week 3 of the 2024 season against the loss to the Philadelphia Eagles when Derek Carr and Dennis Allen were still a head coach. And friendly reminder, that was when we were talking about this team being a Super Bowl contender. Now, Chris Olave, it's been a slow start. It's kind of fair to say 43 targets, 26 catches. There's been some off-target throws. You can't blame all of them on Olave, but I'm also not going to give him a ton of leeway here. You're a wide receiver 1, and you're having a ton of egregious drops. Only 1 touchdown on the year. He's averaging 7 yards per catch, only 185 yards. He's been getting opportunities. He just hasn't been able to capitalize on them, whether it's to the fault of his own or to a bad pass from Spencer Rattler. And for what it's worth, he's also a bad quarterback, does not have a good QBR, has thrown 1 interception, so don't think he needs to be doing a ton of that. I personally would just hate to trade away Chris Olave. I mean, I think it would be such a dumb decision to get rid of this player because of 2 things. One, selfishly, I just spent $150 on a gold Chris Olave jersey. I would hate to have to get rid of it. Objectively, that would suck. I just would be mad. But also because you invested in this guy, you traded up to go and get him, and he was supposed to be the wide receiver 1. And he just isn't living up to that this season. And it's not as much of a knock on Chris Olave of like, look, he has been terrible his whole career. He really hasn't. His first 2 seasons with the Saints were awesome. He's been having to deal with a ton of injury issues. The concussions are a real problem, and that's something that you have to consider when you're talking about the long-term plans of this team. Chris Olave, in my opinion, I love this player. I want something to be very, very clear here. I don't want to trade him away yet. And I love this player, and I really want him to work out, and I want him to take that step and elevate and be the guy. But he just hasn't been good enough to be a wide receiver one. And I think that there's a conversation here to be had around the wide receiver room because the New Orleans Saints are lacking that big-bodied presence. Obviously, they traded for Devon Vele, but they're missing that alpha presence. I've always had this belief that Chris Olave could be a wide receiver one. But I think he's more of a wide receiver 1A or 1B because I think that he would be a much better player if he had somebody to complement him that has more size and a little bit more physicality. Like, I like to think of the Eagles in this situation. You have A.J. Brown and you have Devontae Smith, both phenomenal wide receivers. Devontae Smith looks better because A.J. Brown is in the mix and because he's taking less of those contested catch hits and he's taking a lot less of the pressure and has a little bit of help and he has another guy to be a weapon, thus giving Devontae Smith more opportunities to have one-on-one chances and be able to make plays. So when you have to talk about Chris Olave, it's the trade or pay conversation. Because remember, the New Orleans Saints picked up the fifth-year option. They could look to trade away Chris Olave to try to recoup something in return rather than just letting him walk in 2027 free agency. That's something you need to think about. Are you going to invest heavily in this player? Wide receiver ones get a lot of money. And if he's willing to take a little bit of a hometown discount, awesome. But if he's not and he wants that check, then you have to consider letting him walk and going and getting that money because, you know, can you blame a guy for wanting some cash? No. But the Saints did pick up the fifth-year option that keeps him on the roster through the 2026 season. So you have time to make a decision on whether or not you want to invest in this player. But right now, I don't think that the Saints are in a position to pay Chris Olave a ton of money. And I also don't think Chris Olave has earned a ton of money quite yet from the Saints. So I hope he can take that step. I want him to take that step. I don't want to trade away Chris Olave. Let me make that very, very clear. But Kellen Moore and the Saints have to figure out, is he a part of the long-term plan? Do they want to bring in somebody else? Do they want to bring in a complement? Do they want to bring in a replacement? These are just questions you have to answer over the next handful of weeks as the trade deadline approaches, then, of course, afterwards and then into next offseason. Now, we're going to get into some more overreactions and have some more fun on this video because we like to have a good time here on Saints Now. But first things first, got to thank today's presenting sponsor, and that is PrizePicks. This episode of Saints Now by Chat Sports, brought to you by the best daily fantasy sports app in the whole wide world. Ladies and gentlemen, you and I make decisions every single day, but on PrizePicks, being right can get you paid, so don't miss out on any of the excitement this season on PrizePicks, where it's always good to be right. PrizePicks is the only app that offers stacks, meaning you can pick the same player up to 3 times in the same lineup. Want to pick more on Josh Allen's pass yards, rush yards, and touchdowns? Now you can pick all of them in the same lineup only on PrizePicks. Follow other players directly on the app and copy their lineups in one click. Whether it's a friend, a celebrity partner, or just someone whose picks you like, hit the follow button and check out every lineup they create in the new feed tab on PrizePicks. For Monday Night Football, here's the lineup I'm rolling with. Justin Fields, more on his passing yards. Bo Nix, less on his longest rush. Have a little bit of fun with that one. And Breece Hall, we're going to take a more on him just finding the end zone once. If you want to fade these picks, if you want to tail these picks, don't really care what you do. Just make sure you do it with PrizePicks. Click the link that's in the comments and description of this video to get hooked up, or just download the PrizePicks app and use code CLNS to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. That's code CLNS to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. Shout out to PrizePicks, where it's good to be right. Reminder, all of that information is in the comments and description of this video. It's Miller time! That is overreaction number 2. Big miss on my part not having a Miller Lite in the studio. Could have just cracked open a cold one and had it. I know, come on. I just could have cracked open a cold one and had us a good time, Alper. I mean, what are we doing on a Monday morning? Ridiculous. But I am here to tell you I think it is time for this guy right here, Brett Alper, to make a name for himself. Kendre Miller, I got to give a lot of credit to him. I think that he is starting to emerge and starting to really take shape as a running back for the New Orleans Saints offense. And you're starting to see the Saints create that identity as a rushing team Alvin Kamara, Kendre Miller, yesterday they split together over 100 rushing yards for the Saints offense. I think it was like over 153, I believe is what it was at total. But all in all, they were really, really impressive. Kendre Miller had an extremely physical run to get into the end zone. It was grown man football to a T. Alvin Kamara, I think, is an excellent player to have alongside Kendre Miller because I think Alvin Kamara is still the lead back. I think he is still the guy who should be the dynamic playmaker that gets more opportunities. But Kendre Miller, in my opinion, has been really impressive. Devin Neal, by the way, in case you guys are curious where he was active in week 1, and it's been kind of a healthy scratch over the past few weeks, so we haven't seen him get a ton of run yet. But I do think that Kendre Miller has really, really had a nice start to this season. And I would like to see him get more opportunities. I'd like to see him be a heavily rotated in more often, and I'd like to see him get even more chances to show what he's capable of doing. I feel like he's a player that can break away a play at any moment in time. He is one play away every single time he has the football from just breaking away and busting the game wide open. And it feels like he's one step away from that big play. And I would like to see him be more utilized in the passing game. I'd like to see him get more utilization on third down, in the red zone. I think that he's a player who should be heavily leaned on to take some of those hits off of Alvin Kamara. He has a ton of tread still on the tires. He is not really taking a lot of shots, and I think that he's somebody who needs to get more active in this Saints offense. And I think that we will see his role evolve over the course of the season as Kellen Moore's team continues to take form and continues to create their identity on the offensive side of the football. But I'd also want to make something very, very clear here. That's not me saying that you should take away opportunities from Alvin Kamara and make him a non-factor. I think that you can still maximize Alvin Kamara while giving Kendre Miller opportunities to still make plays and to develop and become a great playmaker. He should still be a heavily utilized part of the offense. Alvin Kamara is still one of the premier backs in the league, but you can find better ways to maximize his abilities. You don't need him to be taken first and second and third down runs through in between the tackles every single time. Let him take a couple up the middle. Let him take some on the outside, but also give Kendre Miller more of those inside the tackle runs. Let him do what he's capable of doing because they both have strengths, and I think they are very complementary towards each other, and I would like to see the rushing attack become more evolved because, in my opinion, that is where this offense is starting to head, becoming a run-first team and becoming a heavy rushing attack. Now, got to give some credit to Alvin Kamara, by the way. Saints PR posting this during game day. After today's performance, Kamara now has 11,846 career scrimmage yards, 75th all-time in NFL history. That is pretty insane. You just take a quick second to appreciate greatness. I understand that the New Orleans Saints season is not going well. I understand that this team is in a really, really bad position. We're 0-4. Spencer Rattler's 0-10 in starts. People are mad. I get it. But let's just take a second to appreciate greatness because we're still witnessing it. We're still seeing great things happen. And the New Orleans Saints do have players that can still do some really, really fun things, not just the old guys, but the young players too. And that brings me to my next point. The Saints need to prioritize the future. You do have really nice playmakers that are veterans, like Demario Davis, like Cam Jordan, like Justin Reed. You have Alvin Kamara as well in the mix. You have Brandon Cooks. But I think that you need to look ahead as this season continues to progress. Obviously, you did not start off the season with a great record. Obviously, the New Orleans Saints are not in a position to be competing for a playoff spot. But you can still utilize the veterans to help build the culture and create the foundation of this team moving forward while prioritizing the future and giving the youth the opportunity to prove whether or not they are going to be a part of this team, because we do have to find out, is Pete Werner a part of it? Is Kool-Aid McKinstry going to take that step and be the guy? Or is there going to be better production from Chris Olave? Is Kendre Miller able to stay healthy and keep this kind of play sustainable? Like, there's things that you really need to take a look at, and there's questions you need to answer about prioritizing the future. Quincy Riley, I think, is answering some of those questions. Jonas Sanker starting to answer some of those questions. Kelvin Banks answering those questions. Obviously, jury's still out for Tyler Shuck, but I think that the Saints need to prioritize the future and continue to look ahead while still utilizing the strengths and the benefits of having quality veterans on the roster. Now, overreaction number 3, we're going to talk about benching Pete Werner. Now, I think Pete Werner is a player. has been okay. Like, I don't think he has been this abysmal, horrible liability that people are saying he is on social media. He has been fairly effective. He has been doing well overall, in my opinion, but he isn't somebody who has just been a difference maker. And when you look at currently who's available in the linebacker room, all eyes go directly to one player, and it's fourth-round pick rookie Danny Stutsman, friend of the program, by the way. So shout out to Steve and Danny. Thank you guys for always watching and supporting us, and hope you guys are doing well. I can tell you right now I am ready for the Danny Stutsman takeover. And sure, maybe it would be Danny Stutsman replacing Demario Davis, or Danny Stutsman replacing Pete Werner. Don't really care either way. I'm just ready for the Danny Stutsman takeover. I think that you can utilize Demario Davis and Danny Stutsman side by side. I think you can utilize Pete Werner and Danny Stutsman side by side. I think Danny Stutsman needs to be on the field more often. He has been doing well in special teams. He is a player who is a jolt of energy. He is electricity in a bottle. And I think that he is a guy who could really make a difference on this Saints defense as he grows into an NFL linebacker. He has already been an impressive player. I am a huge fan of his. And a lot of us fans of the Saints are really looking forward to seeing 28 take the field and take over this defense. I can tell you right now, I'm so ready for this Danny Stutsman takeover, and I am really eager to see him start getting some more run on the defensive side of the football, not just special teams. I can tell you right now, the dropped interception by Pete Werner, that was absolutely egregious. I mean, Josh Allen could not have gift-wrapped it and put that pass on a silver platter more convenient for Pete Werner. Hits you in the chest, right in the freaking numbers, right in the hands, and somehow it ends up on the turf. What are we doing? Like, it's just so frustrating. And look, I'm not really going to sit here and say you got to cut Pete Werner, you got to trade him away. I think that there's conversations to be had about that, as we get closer to the deadline. But the point of this whole thing with Pete Werner is that the New Orleans Saints paid him and invested in him to take a leap and to take a big step in hopes that he would develop into being an elite linebacker. He has not done that. So when you talk about this team, it's the same conversation with Chris Olave. Is he a part of this roster when they are making a playoff run? In hopes that you are a playoff team in 2027, is Pete Werner a factor? You got to answer that question. If he is, awesome. Hopefully he can take the step, and hopefully he can turn things around and be a better linebacker and be a guy that the Who Dat Nation is less frustrated with on a weekly basis. But you also need to consider that he is a player, if you do move on from him, Danny Stutsman sure is there, but you have to still figure out the net linebacker next to him. Demario Davis eventually will have to retire, so conversations to be had nonetheless. But who should start in Week 5 against the Giants? Jackson Dart will be the starting quarterback. Saints back at the Dome. Who should start next to Demario Davis? Type PW for Pete Werner. Type DS for Danny Stutsman. Let me know what you think in the comment section. Appreciate you guys for tuning in today here on Saints Now by Chat Sports for Injury News and Overreaction Monday. We'll have more information on Cesar Ruiz, hopefully, later on when we are live at 3 p.m. Central Time. So be sure to subscribe, turn on your notifications, and we will see y'all later. Y'all stay golden.